Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. We bring you expert advice on how to make and manage your money, how to hire people right, how also to innovate and strategize. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're someone who works within or outside the home, if you're a student, in fact, anything and everything that matters to the life of an Indian is being covered right here on the show. Tonight, I have two special guests joining us to talk to us about their businesses and industries and what really 2021 is looking like. First up, someone who doesn't need much of an introduction, Gautam Singhania. We also have joining us on the show tonight, Tally Solutions. Gautam, so good of you to join us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. You know, in a lot of recent interviews, you've been speaking about how you are cautiously optimistic. That was the headline for 2020. Will that continue into 2021? What's it looking like, and how you really were able to navigate the choppy waters of the pandemic? Give us some insights.
I think you've got to keep your head down and focused. I think that's what's really going to save you. These are tough times, and you take each day at a time, because I don't think anybody knows what the next week or the next month is going to be. In fact, I was just on a call to London, and you're going to hear of a very, very large company going bankrupt in the next couple of hours. Companies you never imagined. So you've got to be head down and focused. Yes, I am cautiously optimistic. We have to focus on the short term right now. While you'd like to plan for the long term, you have to focus on the short term and then do whatever it takes to survive.
Most of the experts who've joined us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow during the big launch that we've had have all spoken about how they're seeing the initial signs of recovery really coming back into the economy. Would you agree with that?
Yes, you are seeing recovery, but is it sustainable recovery? We don't know. Number two, I think India is still joined at the hip with lots of places in the world. And if you see London going into lockdown, Europe going into lockdown, it does have a knockdown effect on India. If companies in the UK start going bankrupt, for example, suppliers from India will not get paid. India might be doing better, but if Europe is going to have an issue, we are somewhere joined at the hip. And we are having these fits of start and stop. I think when I say cautiously optimistic, I think, okay, in cities like Bombay, we are seeing people cautiously, optimistically moving out.
Okay.
And the faster we learn to deal with the pandemic, I think the faster will be our recovery. If we are going to be irresponsible and think that it's not going to happen to me, let me bet you, if the person who thinks it's not going to happen to me is the guy who's going to get the pandemic the first. And that's irresponsible, in my opinion. So, am I going out of the house? Answer is yes, I am going out of the house. Am I leading 100% normal life? Answer is no. If I'm going out of the house, I have to be responsible. I have to wear my mask. I hand sanitize 20 times a day, but I am moving on with life. And that's the way we've got to move on for the moment. And I'm sure this too shall pass and we'll get there. But, we have to help ourselves because nobody else is going to.
The overarching theme that we have here on the Leaders of Tomorrow is empowering a billion dreams. Do you think that the worst is behind us as far as entrepreneurs are concerned, as far as small businesses are concerned, and that 2021 will really see the resurgence in whether it is the entrepreneurial dream, whether it is for someone looking at investing, saving money? Do you think the worst is over?
So honestly, I think there's a great light at the end of the tunnel, which is that there is a vaccine hope. There are not 2 or 3 or 4 companies. I was talking to, again, some people who are saying that the UK hopes to vaccinate their country by end of April. Our Prime Minister is also committed to getting the vaccine. He's been visiting vaccine manufacturers last few days. That's a good sign that shows that it's on top of his mind. It's a priority item for him. And if you roll it out, I genuinely believe that I believe everybody should get the vaccine. But even if 100 million people or 200 million people get the vaccine, the recovery in the economy will be much, much faster. Because eventually it is 10% of the country that actually drives the 100% of the country. As far as services sector that you spoke about, and I said you have to let the country open up at some level. If India is an infected country, or you so believe it is an infected, if somebody wants to come for tourism and you put in place a SOP, he's going to buy a flight ticket, he's going to buy a hotel, he's going to buy a tourist taxi. Look what's happening in Dubai. Dubai has actually given economic benefit a priority. And you have tens and thousands of people going to Dubai. If you see Maldives today, uh, about a month ago, Maldives was getting 2,000 tourists a day, and it's kickstarted their economy, which is very, very vital to them. So tourism-based economies are doing it. And that's vital to very important sectors like ours, like aviation. I'm not in the aviation sector, so I have no vested interest in it. But I mean, I think it's going to have a huge ripple down effect in the long term if aviation or hotels or if we didn't have good hotels and we didn't have aviation, we'd be back 30 years.
I remember the last time you and I caught up, which was in season 8, you had spoken about, the fact that online shopping is not something that you are a big enthusiast of. But 2020 definitely has seen online shopping, e-commerce really coming back to the fore. Is that something that's going to continue? Is that something that's going to stay?
You see, I genuinely believe that shopping is an experience. Okay, I'm buying a product is only part of the experience. इंडिया में सब घूमने निकलते हैं. When we go to the shopping mall to eat food, it's on the way out that you buy something in the shop. That's why if you see in most malls, the movie theater is right at the end because they want you to go to watch the movie and then impulse purchase. Today, if we take a Raymond shop, you typically see maybe three people coming together. Um, People want to feel the shopkeeper tell you that this looks good on you. People want to touch and feel the product. And maybe you can buy a commodity online like a book. And I've also said in my interviews earlier that you can buy a Ferrari online because at some level it is a commodity. It's a specification. And but if I wanted to buy a fabric, I wanted to buy a suit, I want to see what it feels like, I want to touch what it feels like. And what you're actually seeing is tens of thousands of consumers are coming back into the stores. Nobody is going to get virtually married. People are, the wedding halls are totally full today.
Sure.
If you see Delhi, Bombay, weddings are back. And that has kickstarted a cycle of wedding decorators and caterers and shopping in shops. So, yes, we do talk about a virtual world, but life is about experiences. It's not about sitting behind an iPad and doing a Zoom call.
So, what is the marriage between the two, the online and the offline industry, as far as you're concerned, Gautam? Where is that fine line? How do you think that marriage really, the coming together really of the two, is going to work?
It's going to be an evolution. I was on another Zoom call and there was a gentleman in China who said, I can't be happier than the fact that I've been sitting at home and doing Zoom calls. And I actually responded to that and I said, I can't wait for the day that I'm let out because life is about experiences, not about sitting at home.
Looking back at the festive season in 2020, could you say that was an indication of just what demand is going to look like in the short term in 2021? Has it really started coming back?
Let me give you a benchmark. I think people are back out. At the pandemic time, it used to take me 2 minutes to get to the race course. Today, it took me 20 minutes to get home from the race course. And that's, I would say, pretty normal. Traffic on the road is pretty normal. So I think people are out. It's a holiday and still people are on the road. So they're obviously going out for a drive, for shopping, for entertainment, because there's no work today being a holiday. So yes, I think demand is coming back. And I think at some level, people have said, they're fed up of this. They want to live.
How do businesses as large as yours, innovate and really stay on top of all the changes that are happening around them, Gautam?
But innovation is something you've got to live with. It's a day-to-day process. It's not a destination. It's a journey. And in every product, you talked about FMCG, you talked about fabrics. I mean, we've come out with this antiviral fabric in our fabrics business. In our FMCG space, we've come out with hand sanitizers and floor sanitizers. And so that process is a continuous process. Whether there was a pandemic or not, you should be doing it. And that just has to accelerate.
2021, Mr. Singhania, what is exciting you both personally and professionally?
I think, one of the things that most people are missing today is to go back to a reasonably normal life, and one is looking forward to that. For example, I love driving, and I want to see the world driving. And I was just telling somebody I want to buy a car and I want to do 100,000 kilometers on the car and go and see the world. And I
Sure.
can't do that today.
Gautam Singhania, thank you so much for your time. Let's slip into a short break. On the other side, I'm in conversation with Tally Solutions. Welcome back. With us here in Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight, Tejas Goenka of Tally Solutions joining us on the show. Tejas, good having you here on the show. It's always exciting to talk to young entrepreneurs like yourself. My first question, if you can help us understand, Tally Prime has been in the news of late. What can you tell us about, how that's really going to change things for small businesses?
Thanks, Ananda, for having me, first of all. And I hope you and your viewers are doing well and safe and keeping safe. So we just launched Tally Prime on the 9th of November. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks now, and we've seen a phenomenal response from our customers. So it's something that we've been working on for the last few months. And I think the team at Tally has been doing a great job just being able to work from home. The whole premise was that we've had Tally for a very, very long time in the country, 35 years almost. And we had a very similar look and feel and product experience. And a lot of our users were giving us feedback about improving that, making it a little bit easier. Plus, over the last 30 years, what I'll call a lot of product debt accumulates. So you introduce new features. You got accounting that we started out with. You got inventory, payroll, compliance has been a big story over the last few years, especially with GST coming in. And I think we took a step back, relooked at what all we were doing, what all we were planning to do. That's really been the primary aim of Tally Prime.
I want to take a step back and talk about your journey as an entrepreneur, Tejas, coming in, taking on what was a somewhat established business and, making it what it is today. One or two insights that you could share with someone who's watching today's interview about what that experience has been like, and therefore your insights on that?
If I call out 2 or 3 big things over the last 10 years or so, the first 5 years would have been focused a lot on the sales and distribution of the business. I think what we've realized is, and what I've realized, certainly that India is a supply constrained country, and software is no different from mobile phones or TVs in that most people just don't have access to the right purchase point or the right person who will sell you the right software. So we focused a lot on that. The next few years were marked by GST. That's been it was a crazy time to do that. And then the last couple of years, we've been really looking at our next decade, basically 2020 and beyond, and trying to see what overhaul in technology we need to make.
2020 was not a year that anyone could have been prepared for, Tejas, but how did you coming in really manage, respond to all these changes that were happening, and also lead the business effectively and calmly as a leader? Because at the end of the day, you're responding to the changes that are happening around you, even as you're required to be able to communicate effectively with your team, to be able to really lead the team. How did you manage to do that?
Sure, Sananda. So, as you know, we all went into lockdown in the month of March. I think a few of us were anticipating if something would happen. Nobody anticipated that we would be in lockdown for so long. In the initial few days, I think the key was just making sure that we're transparent with our teams, transparent with our partners. We've got a very large partner ecosystem that we work with, and just keeping the conversation going every day, every week. Certainly, I was doing an all hands with our entire team. And just to make sure that people are keeping safe, that people are not struggling with the day-to-day at home. Everyone was cooking, cleaning, managing kids, managing school, managing exams in some cases. So I think that was a big part of the first few weeks. I think about May onwards, most people got used to this kind of a lifestyle. Very honestly, I don't think humanity could have dealt with it if every single person just didn't do their job that they needed to. So it's been interesting. It's been tough, but it's also been a huge learning experience.
You were talking about GST. I want to come back to that. Digital adoption was perhaps, it had to be adopted much faster by your industry thanks to GST initially. Then, of course, now with the pandemic, a lot of businesses having to, work from home, having to work remotely, all of them being forced to really adopt digital much faster. Are you happy with the digital adoption that's taking place in your industry? Do you wish you could have seen more perhaps?
I think the preparedness has been there. I think it's on to a lot of players like us who take responsibility for helping India get prepared. The brand of Tally, fortunately, has been very popular in the country, and you see a lot of piracy that does get that pervades in the country, right? So a lot of people use the free version of Tally, and I think it's been a journey that we've taken to provide access to great new software so that people can update to the licensed and the paid versions. And that's been a journey that we've been on. Pre GST, most people that we would sell to would be using Tally before.
Okay.
Post GST, that changed dramatically, right? It was a reason for people to switch over, to come to the latest release, to buy the licensed version of Tally, which was the GST compliant version of Tally.
Sure.
And now what we see is that the big change over the last 3 years has been most new businesses are adopting technology much earlier. I think that's been one big change.
Sure.
Honestly, if you ask though, the bigger shift is that in the last 6 months, we've seen so much more interest, and it's just changed your mindset in saying that I cannot live without technology. So I think the last 6 months has made a bigger difference than what we saw 3 years ago.
At the core of digitization is data privacy. How do entrepreneurs like yourself, react to that? What are your comments in terms of whether there's enough understanding really of data privacy and how that's being handled?
That's a great question, Sranda. Thanks. So GDPR, I think, has set a benchmark and a direction that I think the rest of the countries in the world will follow. In India, I think this conversation has been a very unusual conversation. It's different on the consumer side, and I think different on the business side. On the consumer side, I think we're seeing a lot of news around Aadhaar. Our data, our individual data, is with different entities in the government. It's for different reasons, but I think the story of privacy is different on the individual side, and on the business side, I think business owners are very conscious about where their data is, who knows about them, and for various cultural reasons, various practical reasons. I think we've seen that a lot, and we've, fortunately for us in our software, the customer controls their own data. They control where they keep it. They control who has access to it, and we don't take any look at it. So for us, the conversation is easy, but it's not an easy one for most people who produce software.
We talk about innovation all the time here on the show, Tejas, and one of the things that has really worked in your favor and helped to differentiate yourself from your competitors is the network that you've built of distributors, if I can call them that, of partners really across the country. Talk to us about that model. Where did the germ of that idea really come about, and how do you ensure that these people continue to be your strength and to be your core?
Sure. So about 15 years ago, we took a call to really expand the ecosystem. We used to sell through what we call our partners across the country, across all the markets that we serve. And 15 years ago, we decided to expand dramatically. We moved from 600 partners or so to about 28,000 partners in a matter of a few years. We've been nurturing that ecosystem now, like I said, for the last decade and a half. And I think the primary thought behind doing that is the insight that India does remain supply constrained. If you want to ask anybody in your office, ask anybody in your family to go and buy a licensed copy of any software, any game, any, I don't know, Excel, Word, anything, Tally, it's very difficult for them to give a clear answer, right? Other than online or maybe Chroma or Reliance Digital. And I think that most of India feels that way. So we invested in the ecosystem, one, to provide this access is the first and primary reason. And the second is that you do realize that India is a very localized market. So it's important to provide local hand-holding, local service. I think that's been a lot of it. The second big thing is that India isn't known for selling software. So we've really honestly taken a lot of effort to be able to grow entrepreneurs in this business itself. We have entrepreneurs ranging from 3 to 4 people. They run teams of 3 to 4 people, ranging all the way up to 300 people who just sell service. Their entire business is revolved around Tally.
Sure.
And nurturing that, cultivating that, supporting that, I think has been a very core part of who we are.
Sure.
I think that's been one core competence. The second bit has been our product. We focus a lot. Most people think of us as an application company. We focus a lot actually on core technologies. We build our own database, do our own math. Most of the stuff is our own, which is what really makes Tally as popular as it is.
Even as we're talking about privacy, what would you like people to understand about why it is necessary for them to follow, licenses used, licensed products, etc.?
So we don't take the licensed copy route at all. Very honestly, if a customer is using a pirated copy that works for them, we have no compulsion to ask them to move.
Okay.
What we do is every few months we make a new release, just like we did with Tally Prime. And we hope that we can show enough value to the customer to move from whatever they're using to move to Tally Prime. And if they so happen to be using a pirated version, Tally Prime is a paid version, therefore you end up moving. So the
Sure.
ecosystem plays a massive role. Over the just about the last month or so, we've done hundreds of virtual events, several hundred happening at the moment right now, where we educate on how to use, what to use, whether to use or not, etc. And the ecosystem plays the pivotal role here.
Empowering a billion dreams is the overarching theme that we have on the Leaders of Tomorrow. Do you think that 2021 is going to be definitely a better year for everyone who's watching this interview? What do you think we should put in place if you're looking at this growth really sort of coming back onto the table into the ecosystem?
I also believe, and we've been talking to several customers every month just to get a sense of how they're seeing the future. And one certain thing that I see in India is there's this hope and optimism which is brighter than I see anywhere else.
Sure.
But honestly, I've seen in the last 3 months that India just believes that we're back to normal, that the future will just be better. And no matter how much we cry about today, we always believe that tomorrow is going to be better. So I do think that 2021 is the resurgence year. It will be difficult, certainly, for many of us. Some sectors will continue to be difficult. But it is a year that I think that we will all bounce back and take all the lessons that we've learned in 2020, the year that was cancelled, and build back up.
All right, Tejas, thanks for your time tonight. Completely out of time in tonight's episode. If you have any feedback for us, our contact details is up on your screens as we speak. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.